Happy New Year, everybody. We are back. NXT Ups and Downs are back in the flesh, baby. And what a show to kick off what should, hopefully, fingers crossed, be a hell of a better year than what we had last year, you know, in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the world. Because, of course, we had NXT New Year's Evil. And, oh boy, just from looking at this card on paper coming into this event, this thing, I was a little bit kind of doing backflips. Bit excited, and you know what? I was right to be. So sit back, grab yourself a nice cup of coffee, tea, or whatever you like to drink, and listen, take in, drink in all the incredible action that went down at NXT New Year's Evil with myself, Gareth Morgan. Let's up some downs. So the night got off to a bit of a different start, let's say, because Dexter Lumis was stood there, he was staring out at the CWC. It was all quite dark, there was no real lighting on, none of the big flare lights or anything like that, and you could see he was up to something. So he walked over to the control console, started clicking a few switches, looked like he was up to no good, and then he turned around, and there was a big lever that had like off, and then an NXT New Year's Evil little devil thing, switched it on, and then he had a tuxedo on. So, good start. But the first real match that we had on this card, the first real match in NXT when it comes to 2021, was Karrion Kross taking on Damien Priest in a hell of a juggernaut fest. And just before this match even got underway, I just need to say yet again that Karrion Kross entrance, it does things to me. I get scared, sat here on my little blue chair watching it on my little Mac here, and I start shivering. I'm like, please don't kill me. I know you can't, but please don't. And I absolutely loved the way this match started. They were like grappling and powering against each other, smashing each other into all the barricades, and it was like King Kong coming up against Godzilla and just what you'd expect. Two kaiju things just battering around the arena, and it was getting me going. There was also a really nice Muay Thai kickboxing exchange where they were like blocking each other's kicks with the knees and their arms and everything, and I really appreciate that because I like me some MMA. But very early on, it looked like Karrion Kross was pretty much going to have his way with Priest when he threw him into the turnbuckle and just smashed his ribs, and understandably, Priest looked a little bit hurt. And he like kicked off this spell where it looked like Karrion Kross was just playing with his food, but Damien Priest, he was having none of it. He was going to fight back because he is a plucky underdog in this scenario. And it was looking like he was going to find a way back into the match. He was hitting him with like his spin kicks. He did that nice slap thing that he always does, which like deafens people somehow. But then he went for the Falcon Arrow, and you could just see his ribs, his midsection were absolutely battered. He wasn't going to get it away. And this all led to a moment where Karrion Kross had Damien Priest up on the top turnbuckle. It was looking like he was going to go for that Saito suplex thing, the Doomsday suplex, which is just awful, dreadful. But then just when he went to do it, Damien Priest switched out of it, and somehow, even though his ribs were absolutely battered, he pulled off a razor's edge, and it was looking like he was going to find a way back in. He then followed this up with that weird, like, senton thing that he does when he stands on the middle of the rope and flips out, which always pops me. I just think it looks incredible. And then after this, Karrion Kross got a bit pissed off. He reversed a reckoning into like a powerbomb thing. He then power slammed him straight into the steel steps later on, and Priest, he was being defiant. He was like, yeah, I'm still standing, you've not beaten me up, but he was about to. Soon after this, he waylaid him with a Saito suplex and then smacked him in the back of the head. He like went time's up and he hit him with his forearm to the back of the head and won the match, which we kind of saw coming, but this was still horrendous. But in the best possible way, because it makes Karrion Kross look like a force of nature again. He is not someone that you want to be trifling with in NXT right now. And if this is, as rumors may have it, if this is Damien Priest's last match in NXT, not a bad way to go. I'd probably say it's his most compelling match that he's had in the brand. Fight me. Except if your name's Karrion Kross, I don't want any of that. And in case it needed saying, that's getting it up. And swiftly after this, we did have the announcement that the Dusty Rhodes Classic is going to be returning. It's returning next week. And I'm going to read off a few of the names because there's a lot of names that are involved in this, and I've got a terrible memory, so I'm going to read off who is going to be involved. So far we've got the Undisputed Era, Everrise, Breezango, Kurt Stallion, and August Gray. You've got Drake Maverick and Killian Dane, Imperium, and more are obviously going to be announced as the kind of show goes on. Legado del Fantasma get announced later on, and there's also another big team that's going to get thrown into it, but I will say that later. After this, we had a little backstage segment with Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. They were talking about the Dusty Rhodes Classic. They've got a match against Breezango in the first round next week, and then they went on to talk up O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly is going to be taking on Finn Balor tonight for the NXT World Championship. They were like, oh, the Golden Prophecy 2.0, it's going to be a thing. O'Reilly's going to kick it off, and we're going to bring it home. Right, and then after this, we had the NXT Cruiserweight Championship match, which was obviously Santos Escobar defending his belt against Gran Metalik, which I wasn't here last week, so a lot has changed. Obviously, looking back, they had a tag match randomly out of nowhere. The Lucha House Party just popped up last week and they challenged Legado del Fantasma and they actually won. So that set this match up, and by God, I was excited because this is going to be lucha, crazy, partiness, lucha stuff. And I like lucha stuff, so it's getting it up. What I liked straight away about this match as well, just really quickly, was the fact that on commentary they did note that these two used to be teammates before WWE, because yes, wrestling does happen outside of WWE, I don't know if you knew this, but that happened, that was a thing. So these two do know each other, they know each other really well, and it showed in the match. Because there were a lot of counters, but for the most part, Gran Metalik looked absolutely magnificent in this match. He proved why he is called the King of the Ropes, because he had this one point where he bounced off the springboard and did a Hurricane Rana. He then bounced off the ropes again to do a moonsault, and then later in the match, he bounced off the ropes again to do a senton. The guy just likes bouncing off ropes. But at the end of the day, Santos Escobar is the Cruiserweight champion for a reason, and he found a way to win the match. But for a brief second, it was looking like Gran Metalik was going to come away with the win. Lince Dorado had to run interference against Legado del Fantasma on the outside, and he did this like top rope Hurricane Rana. I was like, oh my God, he's going to do it. But no, he did not, because Santos Escobar nailed him with the Phantom Driver, and that is a big scalp for him. But I'd probably say the biggest takeaway for me coming out of this match is just how much we could be doing with Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado outside of the main roster. Even though Lince Dorado wasn't specifically involved in the match itself, he just like did an interference thing at the side, both of them have just felt more entertaining in the last 2 weeks than what they have over the last 2 years on the main roster. So either bring them over to NXT, do more with them, or just take this version that we've got right now, Wednesday nights, and put it on SmackDown or Raw. Just, it's that easy. So easy. We then had a bit of Rhea Ripley, Raquel Gonzalez backstage hype flexing stuff, and it got me excited. So yeah, this was followed up by a Mercedes Martinez promo video package thing where she was like, oh, I'm coming after Io Shirai in her NXT Women's Championship. She ain't so bad. She's just the female superstar and overall superstar of the year, but I threw her straight through a table, so yeah. But this did get me thinking, is Mercedes Martinez just going to jump to the head of this queue now? I mean, there's Toni Storm in there who beat Rhea Ripley the other week. Raquel Gonzalez pinned Io Shirai at War Games. Ember Moon's still there. Like, there's a lot of people you got to get past first just to get to Io Shirai, Mercedes. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you because you probably beat me up, but just food for thought there. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, I know, brace yourselves, but the Xia Li and Boa stuff on this week's NXT is getting up. And the main reason for this is finally, after weeks of begging, pleading, just holding my hands up to the air and saying just do this, they finally brought them into the arena and showed off what all this weird training / hardening / torturing stuff in the garage, in the dimly lit garage, was for. To kick things off, we had that figure, that ominous figure with the nice nails that's always in the garage. They were sat at the top of the stage, then Xia Li and Boa popped up, they walked halfway down to the ring, and then Xia Li started just showing off all of her kicks and everything, and I was getting super hyped for this, I'll be honest. She then got into the ring and just battered the masked jobber who was there in front of her. Honestly, some of the knee strikes and the spinning kick, how she ended this match, I agree with Wade Barrett on commentary with this. He said she would have stayed down for a 300 count for that, and she probably was. She's probably still there now. She's probably still knocked out in a heap under the ring somewhere. It was insane. So if we do something similar with Boa as well, I'll be honest, I think all that garage stuff, as crazy as it seemed at times, and I could not get my head around it, it would have all been worth it if they both looked like absolute badasses going forward. Right, now unfortunately this next little segment, piece of information, gets a little down, but it's only because I was expecting it, and it got taken away, so I was very sad. I'm of course talking about the Fight Pit, which was called off because William Regal announced on Twitter, and it was replayed here in the NXT show, that Timothy Thatcher had injured himself training so hard for that Fight Pit match against Tommaso Ciampa. But the good news is, going forward, we are going to have this match at some point in the future, just not right now, so it gets a little down because I was very upset. But obviously safety first. I hope Timothy Thatcher's okay. He's my guy, he's my brother, because we look like the same person. It is what it is. Next up, we just randomly had Bronson Reed at ringside, and he was like, oh, I was injured a bit ago. I understand what Timothy Thatcher's going through, but that made me really aggressive, and I'm putting everyone on notice. I'm going to be super aggressive in 2021, and just because it's coming on next, I think Rhea Ripley is going to beat up Raquel Gonzalez. Yeah. Well, in case it wasn't obvious, thanks to that Bronson Reed segue, yes, we had the last woman standing match on this night. It was here, it was now. My goodness, it was incredible. Actually, no, it wasn't just incredible. It was Yellow Highlighter of the Week incredible. That damn good. Honestly, coming into this, I loved everything about this match, this setup, the little promo package last week when it was like R&R, friends forever, but now it's R versus R. Look, this is what I like from my wrestling. Just ramp up the drama and let the Goliaths go to war. And honestly, these two just couldn't keep their hands off each other. As soon as the bell went, they just bang, they went at it like two bulls locking horns. Yeah. But it wasn't long before Raquel Gonzalez sensed the size of the task that was in front of her and pulled out some handcuffs. She was like, haha, I'm gonna tie Rhea Ripley to the fence. But that backfired. Well, it backfired for a minute at least, because Rhea Ripley then turned the table. She tied Raquel Gonzalez to the fence, but then Raquel Gonzalez yanked her arm free. Like, she pulled the fence off with her arm. It like got wrapped around her fist, and then she started beating up Rhea Ripley with a fence. Rhea Ripley then got her face smashed straight into the ring bell, and the ding noise was probably the sound of my head falling off. I was like, wow, that looked painful. But it just got even more painful, because then Rhea Ripley was back, body dropped onto the announce desk, like on the edge. Like, if I was to back body drop myself right now, just there, just This then eventually led, there was like a little commercial break, but this all led to Raquel Gonzalez booting Rhea Ripley into the backstage area. She literally booted her straight off like some steps, and she rolled out into the back. Out of nowhere though, Rhea Ripley just suddenly got a second wind and speared Gonzalez through a glass door. And that is not the most extreme thing that happens in this match, which just now I need to lie down right now. My brain. Honestly, I do not know how either person got up from that, but somehow they did, and this all led to Rhea Ripley putting Raquel Gonzalez on a table and then saying suck it and then doing a senton onto the table. Now, obviously we knew we couldn't get through this whole match without some form of shenanigans, because Dakota Kai is involved with Raquel Gonzalez, and yeah, she popped up and just tried to attack Rhea Ripley. But this all went terribly wrong, because then Rhea Ripley crammed her into a locker and then put a box in front of it, so she locked her in a locker. The two then spilled out back onto the stage, and then Rhea Ripley did this like prism trap steel chair move, which she like just yanked back her face with a steel chair. It looked gruesome, it looked brilliant. This match was so creative just across the board, I loved it. But we needed a mighty crescendo, and that is exactly what we got when Raquel Gonzalez like reversed Rhea Ripley, got her in the single arm powerbomb, and just slammed her straight off the stage. Yep, the two of them just crashed straight through some wood, but then Raquel Gonzalez somehow managed to beat the 10 count. So she just beat Rhea Ripley in the last woman standing match. Give this woman all the belts. Now, I know every single week I come out here and just wax lyrically about how much I think Raquel Gonzalez has improved over the last couple of weeks, couple of months, but she has. She looks so good. She looked like the equal here of Rhea Ripley, which is a testament to how NXT have booked her at this point over the last couple of months. So I think it just makes sense. Put her in that match against Io Shirai for the NXT Championship. I think she's more deserving than Mercedes Martinez, but don't tell her that. But I think a big takeaway coming out of this is what happens next now for Rhea Ripley. Does she come to the main roster? Is this the time for her to do so? Maybe. I'm worried because I'm not sure how they're going to use her, but who else is left for Rhea Ripley in NXT right now? That's a question. But we can answer that another time, because before that we had The Way. They were here to show us all the way because Johnny Gargano broke the curse. But we're going to bring up the Gargano meter right now. Hopefully it's somewhere here. And I'm going to give the whole police escort that they had. The Way had to come into the NXT arena. That's going to get a nice solid 81% on the Gargano meter. It made me pop, it made me chuckle. These guys are just the best. Gargano was obviously in a joyful mood because he had broken that aforementioned curse, and he said the only thing he's cursed with now is having incredibly good looks and just being an incredibly good dancer. Yeah. And it was lovely because Candice LeRae, his wife, awarded him this lovely commemorative plaque of his breaking of the curse, and then Austin Theory and Indy Hartwell gave him this weird print of The Way, like mocked up as Avengers. How sweet. Gargano was not content with all these lovely gifts and just breaking the curse though, because he announced that him and Austin Theory are going to be in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. So, yep, there's another team. This is going to be a really good tournament. I'm excited. I know I don't sound it, but I am. But Shotzi Blackheart was not happy with this whole love-in that was going on, so she came out in a tank. Austin Theory was like, what are you doing? You're spoiling Gargano's celebration. He's broken the curse. So she shot him right in the wedding tackle with a rocket. I don't know. This all led to a seriously impromptu match with Kushida and Shotzi Blackheart. They were going to join forces because Kushida just came out of nowhere and started beating up Johnny Gargano. And they were going to fight Gargano and Candice LeRae because Dexter Lumis suddenly popped up. He'd been missing all show, even though he was the host. And he revealed that he'd drawn a graphic and they were going to have a match because he drew a graphic. The match itself was pretty much what you'd expect with all the people involved. You had Shotzi Blackheart going straight after Candice LeRae. Those two were just brawling, barreling all the way through it. And then Kushida looked like he was on a one-man mission to prove that he should be the North American champion, or at least should have a shot, because he just went at it. And he did this brilliant sequence where he just does his drop kicks, his baseball drop kicks on the floor. And I love Kushida. He did this like arm drag, arm bar thing that he always does, just seamlessly. Give this guy at least a shot, maybe even the belt. But this entire match led to a moment where Gargano very nearly hit his own wife in the face, and then the two of them, both simultaneously, like in stereo, had their arms absolutely pulverized by Kushida and Shotzi Blackheart. Blackheart then eventually dove out the ring and smashed straight into Candice LeRae. Kushida was on the top rope. Austin Theory pushed him off it, but Kushida was having none of it. He dragged him into the ring, put him in the corner, and then drop toe holded Johnny Gargano's face right into his knackers. And then Kushida rolled him up for the win. Rolled up Johnny Gargano to take away the victory and, yeah, give Kushida that NXT American Championship, North American Championship shot, and give Shotzi Blackheart, Candice LeRae, and I'll be happy. This all gets a mighty big up. We had a couple of announcements after this, because we had a little promo thing saying that we're going to have an NXT takeover event on Valentine's Day, which should be a Valentine's Day massacre if you ask me. And then after this we had William Regal pop up and say, yeah, next week's going to be the first round of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and we're also going to have a women's Dusty Rhodes Classic, which makes sense because that women's roster right now is different levels of stacked, so I'm very happy. But all this night, this epic New Year's Evil night, was leading to the main event, which was, of course, Kyle O'Reilly versus NXT champion Finn Balor dos. And if you saw even just a little sliver of the last match, of the last altercation that these two had in the ring, you will know that this was going to be a hard-hitting, gruesome, grotesque, grisly affair, and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, it delivered. And I just absolutely adored the psychology of this match, because obviously Finn Balor had broken his jaw in that last match against O'Reilly, so he didn't want to get caught in any exchanges, any kind of striking exchanges with O'Reilly, because he thought, if I get kneed in the jaw again, that could be it. So he took O'Reilly to the ground and started grappling with him, which is a very risky tactic because Kyle O'Reilly is like a BJJ expert. So let's see how it works out for him, Garden. As it goes, it was working out really well, and he had him in like this abdominal stretch, which was obviously having an impact on that liver that was injured in the last match that they had. So many callbacks in this match. So then Kyle O'Reilly bit the rope to get out of it, and Finn Balor was obviously very pissed off at this, so he kicked the rope and seemingly injured Kyle O'Reilly's jaw. Shock twist. So for the rest of the match, Finn Balor was just targeting the jaw. He got him in cross faces, forearms to the face, and it was just like a complete swing turnaround of what we saw in the last match. The tables were turned, and I loved it because it just rewarded you for being loyal to the product. But O'Reilly was not going to stay down throughout this entire match. He kept fighting back. He kept trying to kick the crap out of Finn Balor at any point he had, and there was one point he kicked him so hard, he did like a running punt kick so hard, he fell out of the ring. He took himself straight out of the ring with the kick. And this felt like a turning point for O'Reilly, because then he got back in the ring and he just had this like constant sequence of submissions where he'd go for like a triangle, then he'd turn it into an armbar and something else, and he was just like a BJJ monster for like 2 minutes straight. But it just felt like that jaw injury was weighing down a bit too heavily on him, because Balor started getting really efficient with all of his energy. He didn't waste any movement. He was going for 1916s or whatever it is, 1918, that big thing he does with the suplex and the DDT thing, and he just kept going straight for that jaw. He was being clinical. This was a masterful tactician kind of performance from Finn Balor. And just when it looked like maybe O'Reilly was going to find his way back into the match, he did like a superplex, into a roll-up, into a brainbuster. Finn Balor hit the Hail Mary shot. He went straight for the liver again. It dropped O'Reilly, and he got him in an abdominal stretch, which like turned into an abdominal stretch on the floor, where he was like just twisting his body and his jaw. And Kyle O'Reilly had no choice but to tap out to Finn Balor. Madness. Oh, and if it wasn't already very, very, very clear, up. Again, this made Kyle O'Reilly look like he deserves to hang with the main event boys. It made Finn Balor look like an absolute beast who's capable of chopping down just about any opponent in front of him. And then the Undisputed Era came out to support Kyle O'Reilly, and I thought, no, don't turn on him now. Don't do that big split at this point because my heart can't take it. They didn't, but I'm going to be very curious to see how this goes down in the group, because that's, yet again, Kyle O'Reilly's second chance to bring the gold back to the team, and he's not done it. So those have been your ups and downs for NXT New Year's Evil. Let me know what you think of all of them in the comments section below. Yes, I've not really done a lot of downs today, we've just got that little one, so if you've got anything that you think I've given it up that thinks deserves a down, or vice versa, you're probably going to tell me about it. As always, I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Follow everyone here at What Culture Wrestling on Twitter at WhatCultureWWB. Follow myself on Twitter at GMorgan04. Like the video, share the video, click subscribe, do all the good stuff, and I will see you likely next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.